All right. So we are joined from Chicago by my friend and friend of the class, the amazing Pongee Barnes, founder of Little Owners there in Chicago, writing some amazing children's books. We've taken a look at some of your products, and it's just really cool to see all the cool ideas you have and all the ways you're getting children involved in entrepreneurship there and underserved communities, which I know, and I don't want to go too much into your story, but you did say, you thought that was important for the communities of Chicago to see a minority business owner. So, I'm kind of overstepping already, but why don't you tell us about your background, how all this started, because it's so cool.
Yeah, so I am what I love to do, what I'm really passionate about is I'm a real estate investor in Chicago. And I was invited in 2019 to speak at an entrepreneurship day event. They wanted me to teach the kids about the importance of owning real estate. And so I was invited to that event. I was there and I was just blown away, honestly, probably more than the kids, because just all the Black entrepreneurs in this gym room with different businesses, from having their own law practice, restaurant ownership, different, varieties of professions. And I left that event and I was thinking, like, I didn't grow up seeing this, like my parents were entrepreneurs. They own their own auto repair shop. So entrepreneurship is in my blood, but I knew that that was like, I was an exception, right? Most kids that look like me did not experience this type of thing. And so I left there thinking, how can we duplicate this? How can we make sure that other children see themselves beyond just the idea of being an employee, but as a business owner or as an entrepreneur? And so I left that event. I love to write. That's like my second love, real estate and writing. And so I started writing and I started with my children. So my children are 9 and 12 now, but at the time they were 6 and 9. So I felt like I wanted to collaborate with the children because what better to inspire other children than children themselves? And so my oldest, he was learning about the stock market, and my youngest, he is a connoisseur of fast food. And I wanted him to understand, because I know other parents go through the same thing where, you're driving, you're trying to run errands, and the kids are begging for chicken nuggets or whatever it is, fast food restaurant. So I wanted him to understand you don't have to just be a consumer. You can be an owner. And I knew that I had met other people that were Black that were part of the McDonald's Black franchise owner association. And so I knew that other kids may not know about that. And so I wanted them to know that, hey, you can you could be a franchise owner, or guess what? You can start your own franchise, because here in Chicago, I don't know if you guys have the restaurant down there, but we have a restaurant called Harold's Chicken. And this was a restaurant that started with a Black guy about 60, 70 years ago. And there's so many Harold's Chicken franchises all around Chicago. They're in Atlanta now and other places. And so I wanted them to know also, if you don't, if you have your own restaurant recipe or idea, you can franchise that out as well. So it's all about the book series. It's all about changing the paradigm. It's about having children not see themselves as just such as consumers, but also saying, I can actually do this, right? That the person that did this is no smarter than me. And so this is possible for me to do too.
Yeah, and it's really cool. And we were looking through some of your titles on Wednesday, and a lot of the jobs that you show are things that, even if one thing that I've noticed since we started having these speakers is that everybody that's an entrepreneur is not necessarily only an entrepreneur. Some people still hang on to being an employee just to have, because they either really love it or they have kids, they want to have the benefits and things of that nature. But a lot of the things in your book are just showing things that they could start out in high school doing. It's not big investment entrepreneur topics, even though a few of them are. But you really show, you can start doing this now, build wealth for yourself. You can still go to college, do this while you're going to college, and then have a skill that you could do on the side while you're an employee, if that's the route you wanted to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought that point up, because I think that some people do kind of like try to pigeonhole the business and think like we want everybody. We understand that entrepreneurship is not for everybody. But like you said, my husband, he loves real estate like me, but he has a day job and he loves his day job. He's been doing that for 20 something years, but he loves doing real estate and investing on the side. So it's definitely the idea of like having some sort of passive income or some other investment on the side to ensure that, you have generational wealth and a good retirement.
Yeah. Now, for people that may not be familiar, what are, because I know you have male characters and you have female characters. And now, first of all, are you the illustrator and the writer? And also, where do you get your ideas from? Because you've shown several businesses that, are really not that hard to start up.
Yeah, so one thing that I want to mention is on our website, we do have like a free download where parents can go and actually download like 25 different
Wow.
businesses that kids can do right now. So that can range from tutoring. Like there's some really smart kids that could really be making money virtually, or if they want to go to a library and tutor other children, dog walking. There's so many different things they can do. So you can start today. Secondly, that I do have a team. So I don't do this on my own. And that's another thing I want to stress for entrepreneurship is that you do not want to be the sole person of your company. Okay. So in order for you to actually be the CEO, you have to be able to delegate out some of those things that you're not good at. And that makes your life more easier so you can focus on the business itself, running the business, making sure that it's always increasing its sales and things like that. So we have an illustrator, we have an editor, I have an assistant, we have different people in the company that do different jobs. I that is not my skill set to be drawing and things like that. It just wasn't like when I started out this business, I knew I wasn't going to try to do everything. But the ideas behind the books are definitely mine. It's just people that I come in contact with, or kids will ask about certain things, and so it just pops up in my mind, or I feel like there's something that they may not know about, like Steven, the sports agent. That came to me because my husband, that's his name, Steven, but he loves sports. But I felt like a lot of children in our community always want to be the talent. And I was just like, I know that because they have such limited visions on what that looks like in terms of sports, but I wanted to open it up and let them know, hey, you can be a sports agent. You can be making the money behind the scenes because there's so much money in the business of sports where you don't have to just be the talent and using your body to make the money. You can use your brain. So that was important. So it's just things that are really like that I'm passionate about for children to be exposed to is where those titles come up from. And what I'll do is when I get a book inspired to write a different book, I always do a consultation. So
Oh,
even if you look on our YouTube, like I talked to a Black professional sports agent that talked about he had to go to he gets to get a bachelor's degree. He went to law school. He had to take a test to get licensed. Like he walked everybody through the entire thing. But what I always do is pay for consultations because what I do know is that my specialty is in real estate investing. I do not know about
yeah.
all those other things. So I like to talk to people that are the best at the top of their game. Like this sports agent, he actually represented all NFL players. He's once branched out, but he represents the best of the best, the Super Bowl winners of the NFL. And so I try to go to people who are the best of what they do. And I get, all the information about what children need to know if they do want to be in that profession so that I'm giving accurate information and also something that is actually, relatable to what it takes to become that today.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned you had Steven, the sports agent. What are some of the other types of entrepreneurs you've had in your book? I know you've had the food truck, you've had the truck, you've had the trucking business, you've had the clothes store. So, what are some of the other businesses that you featured as characters in your books?
Yeah, so we have Ava the Architect. That's our latest one because there are so many kids that love to draw.
Mhm.
And also because I'm a real estate investor, I work with people that do architectural work for me. I wanted kids to know that that was a profession. And also in Chicago, we have so much rich architecture where Black people were the ones that actually designed it. And so even recently, we have a major community college that was built, Malcolm X College, and
Wow.
that was designed by an entire Black architectural company. And so
Wow.
I wanted children to know, hey, like, this is not new. Like Paul Revere started this in California, so I wanted them to know that that's possible. So we have Ava the architect, we have Sierra the salon owner, because we know that people love to do hair, but they need to also look at the business of owning a salon, and then maybe you can own 5 or 6 or as many salons as you like, and you don't always have to be actually doing the hair. Maybe you grow out of love of doing the hair, but you actually love the salon business, right? We have been the gamer because my son is a huge gamer. I wanted him to know, like, you don't have to just buy like all the games, and you can being the consumer. You can do both. You can buy the stock for Microsoft if you like Xbox. You can also think about the idea of learning how to design your own video games. So that just off of my own children's interest in trying to get them to change their mindset, that's where some of the ideas came from. We have Robert the real estate investor. We have Aiden, the accountant. And I thought that was important because my kids, they both love math. That's their favorite subject. And that is a subject they're always getting A's in. My husband, he also did, advanced math all throughout his high school career. So we got a lot of math lovers in my house. And so I wanted them to know, other children to know that are, math lovers, that that's another, career that they can monetize because people need help with their taxes, whether it be businesses, business agencies, or, the regular common person.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned something too, because we actually had another Chicago guest last week, true lawyer there in Chicago that specializes in Black-owned businesses doing the paperwork and all
Okay.
the side ahead of time. Because it's like you said, so many girls say they want to do hair, so many boys say they want to own trucks,
Mhm.
or even we've had a guest before that was a doctor, but said out of her own mouth, I learned how to take care of patients, but nobody told me how to run a business. Because everybody can do the glamorous stuff and the stuff you see on Instagram and the fun stuff. But when it comes to the actual paperwork and the legal licensing issues, that's where a lot of young entrepreneurs, especially young Black entrepreneurs that were not educated, and it's not that they're dumb, they just weren't ever told and they weren't ever taught
Exactly.
about the importance of it. That aspect of it cannot be lost even from a young age, because when you're 15, 16 years old, obviously, state of Illinois, state of Mississippi, you're not going to be able to legally get a business license, but your parent could get it for you, and you could transition into that, and that's where you start learning the paperwork and legal side of running the business.
Absolutely. So yeah, so we even talk about what taxes are for, why you have to pay them, just to educate kids early. Because like you said, a lot of people don't realize this till they're in their 20s, till it's too late. And so the earlier that we can educate and catch children, the earlier the better. We do have people that feel like um, the kids are not able to actually understand what our book's about. But I feel like based on our experience, because we work in the Chicago public schools, I can see that the children are grasping it. Because I do have people that are like, well, you don't feel like it's too early for them. Oh, absolutely not. I definitely feel like the earlier, the better. The earlier we learn about taxes and credit and what a mortgage is, all of those things, people would be so surprised if they got to meet some of the children that went through our summer program or that are in the CPS schools that we work with, and how they come out of these programs so educated, so smart, and ready to just go execute.
Yeah, and you make a great point, and I'm glad somebody else is saying this, because even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, if you don't want to take that financial risk, if you don't want the headache of the decisions, thinking like an entrepreneur can make you an extremely successful employee. Because if you say, I don't want the responsibility of making the decisions, but I can think like an entrepreneur and make somebody else a lot of money and make myself a larger salary, that makes you valuable. And then
Mhm.
also, you talk about the financial literacy, because you are educating future entrepreneurs, but you're also educating future adults, which is, again, some people don't have the wherewithal to start a new business, and that's fine. Everybody's not meant to be an entrepreneur, but I have so many students that come back to me and say, I wish I would have paid attention when you were talking about taxes. I wish I'd have paid attention when you were talking about banking. And getting that in their mind early is also I think it's a huge selling point for your product. Because if I'm a parent and I'm like, yeah, I don't think my kid really wants to own their own business, but I really want them to learn these financial concepts. That's such a great product for not only a demographic, but an age group that really, really could use the education.
Yeah, and that's another thing with our books. We marry both of them. So in our books, not only is it just talking about a different entrepreneurial career, we always have financial terms so that kids are very familiar at a young age. So all the books are highlighted in red with financial vocabulary terms. And in the
Wow.
back of the book, we have a glossary. So
Wow.
it's not just, a one faceted thing of like, oh, everybody needs to grow up, be an entrepreneur, but there is this other part of it is that everybody needs to know what credit is. Everybody needs to know what passive income is. Everybody needs to know what interest means when you put money into a bank. Those are basic foundational things that that kids need to know about so that they don't learn too late. I think that's like my mission is that I feel like there's been this echo chamber for decades of college, 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 college. And so I wanted to introduce something else because college is great. Like I want my kids to go to college. I want my youngest to go to law school. I told them I want you to get some mentorship, but I want you to have your own practice. So we need our professional class, but there's also so many trades where people are making six figures in that they can also explore as well. So that's just kind of like my little slice of trying to penetrate the traditional public school system curriculum, just kind of let kids know there's another narrative and it doesn't have to just always lead to college. There's so many paths to success.
Yeah, and we're on the exact same page on that thought process because Mississippi is all the bad press we get. They do a great job of utilizing the community college program where kids can get associates in various fields and fields like. And I have two in here sitting with me right now that are interested in the gaming industry, like your son. And that's not something they would necessarily need a bachelor's degree to break into. Whether they want to be entrepreneurs or not, tech companies are more worried about certifications and experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you want to get a degree, that's great. But if I'm a tech person and I'm hiring somebody, I want somebody that can run the new technology that I have, and then has a little business background. I'm not, if somebody has a computer science degree, that's great, but that's not what I'm looking for.
Yes, absolutely. And we have a book, Tiffany the Techie. And so because we know there's been so many organizations that kind of sprouted up, Girls Code, Black Girls Code, like so many things that talk about tech. So we wanted to introduce that to kids as well.
Yeah, and that's another great point. And you talk about wanting to introduce them to things because our country's changing. And when me and you were growing up, and even when these kids I have now, their grandkids, there was not as much opportunity for African Americans, especially in rural areas like we're in. So it was not uncommon to not see certain people of different skin colors being in certain fields, but that has changed drastically in the last few years. And I think, I'll agree with you. It's important for kids to see what is possible. It's important
Yes.
to see someone that looks like them doing this because a lot of times, and I'm guilty of it as well, you see, well, I've never seen anybody else do that. I don't know if I can do it.
Mhm.
But I always say, just because you're the first at something doesn't mean you can't be the best at something.
Right. Somebody had to be a trailblazer. So that's absolutely you're absolutely right. And that goes back to like our book, Stephen the Sports Agent, where we talk about Rich Paul and we talk about how he was representing LeBron James. And when LeBron James took a big chance and decided to have his friend represent him as an agent. And it was like that was like a huge thing because he had no license and no experience. And he allowed him to do it. And because of that, the NBA has a rule called the Rich Paul rule. Now everybody has to go through that entire process of college, either having a law degree or some type of master's degree, and you have to take a licensing exam. So he was the trailblazer for becoming a sports agent without a license. So somebody has to be the first person to step up and do it.
Yeah, and then also, this could be another idea for Jalen Hurts just made national headlines by having the female agent that negotiated the largest contract in NFL history.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to look into that story.
yeah, $272 million, and she's a female agent, the largest deal ever negotiated for an NFL player by a female.
Wow. Okay, I have to look that in. I look that up.
Yeah, I will definitely send you that. Now, a few things I always like to talk about before I get to the students' questions is, God, and I know you're so humble, you wouldn't really get into it because you've just been featured on national news and you've been on a lot of publications and a lot of symposiums there in Chicago. But still, you still have to have the strategies that somebody who's just starting out would have because the big mistake I see so many young people make is as soon as they open their business, they're more worried about I'm trying to have customers, trying to have as many customers as possible, and they don't charge enough, and they work themselves ragged, and they say, "Well, I had all these sales, but I didn't make any money." So, what are some ways to overcome that obstacle? Because it's a very easy trap to fall into, especially for teenagers.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I always, like when I'm talking to children, I always say start with a business plan because the business plan is going to make you force you to sit down and actually write down numbers. What does it cost for materials? What is the labor going to cost? What is my profit going to be after I pay all these different things? And then that way you can go in with a realistic idea. Also, it forces you to kind of look at your competition. So, what is like the average price in your industry that they're charging for the service? That way you're not racing to the ground for this price. If they're charging $10, you need to be maybe like at $8. You don't need to be at $6. Okay. That's a fast way to burn out and resent your business and want to close it because you're going to say, what is the point? I'm not making any money. It's almost like I'm working for free. And so you want to make sure you have a business plan. I can't stress that enough. That will definitely force you to look at those numbers.
Yeah, a big thing we always talk about is perceived value, because if you can offer just a little bit more, you can charge just a little bit more, and you know, if a customer thinks they're getting more bang for their buck, they're going to spend more bucks. So it really is, instead of trying to be the cheapest, you have to be the most valuable. And you know what I always say, Ferrari doesn't drop their prices,
No.
um, you know, but they make plenty of money keeping their prices how they are. Now, and also, you know, again, you've been on in Black Enterprise Magazine, you've been on ABC News, you've been on, you know, all types of media. But what is your marketing strategy? Because you know it's a different type of product. So how are you reaching the market? Because your customer reviews are fantastic. You have so many parents talking about how great it's been for their children. So obviously, it's reaching the right people. So how are you marketing that for it to reach the right people?
To be honest, it's a lot of word of mouth. So we have customers that love it so much that they're like, I know this media person and I pitched it for you. Like
Wow.
literally. And then also in the beginning, we did pay for PR services. So that was a part of our budget is that we pay for PR services. But now it's just really been parents and people that are like, you know, schools, maybe a teacher that have really loved our mission and our company, and they have been the ones that have told the media about what
Wow.
was going on with Little Owners. Yes.
Wow. And I mean, and again, I didn't know that you were that new of a company. I thought you were several years old, but you said you didn't start until 2019.
No, we started in 2020. I didn't start, I
Wow.
got asked. Yeah. So the company was formed 3 months before the pandemic. So we started January of 2020. So we're 3 years old.
That's incredible. You know,
Yeah,
to pick up that much speed that quickly. Um, Now, and I don't know if I asked you this last time. Are you originally from Chicago?
I am. I am born and raised in Chicago. Yep.
But yeah, because you know, one of my good friends works at DePaul, and I'm a big Cubs fan, so I try to.
My mom graduated from DePaul.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I try to get up there when I can. So, and I know you're short on time, so I got some questions from the students, and
Okay.
these are all seniors, and
Oh,
they've
nice.
yeah getting ready to graduate, but they've all come up with original business ideas. Um, okay, this is Shania Charleston, and this is more of a financial question because she's getting ready to graduate. So she's asking, what is the most important thing that you would say is the reason to establish credit?
Well, you're going to need credit for pretty much everything in your life. I'm talking about from utility services when you decide to get your own space to even when you get a car insurance, right? They look at your credit score. There's so many reasons why you need credit. And also, you need credit because eventually you do want to own your own home. You do want to be able to, even if you have a business that you want to start in the future, they are going to look at your personal credit score and before they give you business credit. So, because typically when you're young and you've never had a business before, that's what they're going to look at until you get like a track record where you have a business score and things like that. So it's important for so many facets because you're going to need it as a landlord. I would never take anyone that didn't have a credit score. I'll be very honest with you. I still work and screen my own tenants. I do have a property manager, but that part of the business, it's very important for me to be in control of what tenant gets into my units. So credit scores are very important for just being able to actually be an adult. So yeah.
Yeah, and I always tell them, you know, stay away from the scams because when these kids go to the military or go to the college campuses, they're just going to be hit over the head with
Oh yeah.
get a free T-shirt or get 20% off
Mhm.
today, and that that's what
Exactly.
you stay away from. But doing things like getting a cell phone in your name, getting things,
Hmm.
finding something that you can put in your name to establish some sort of payment history, or
I agree.
even getting the car insurance in your name. So things like that can really really help, and they're not going to drown you at a young age when you're still trying to find your way in a career. So I mean, I agree completely.
Yes.
Here's a good one. This is Justin Clerk, and he asked, as an author, do you find it difficult to come up with unique ideas for your books?
No, actually, I have like 10 more books sitting in my laptop to be published. Like, I mean, I just come up with all of these. Yeah, I'm always like, when I'm out networking or just listening to TV or something like that, I'm thinking of, okay, wow, I never thought about that business. So, no, I don't run out of ideas, to be honest. And I get inundated so much in my DM on Instagram where parents are like, we need a book on running a bakery. We need a book on. So, there is like endless ideas because there's always some parent, grandparent, teacher that are like, you need to write this book. So
Wow. This is an interesting question. This is Miles Woodard, and he asked, has the overall goal of your business changed from the time you started to now?
absolutely. When we started, our strategy was basically social media. So I paid for agency to just run Instagram and Facebook ads. I was spending about $50,000 in ad spend. Just crazy. And so that pivoted like once we got into like late 2021. I realized I didn't want to spend that crazy amount of money on ad spend. So, and also I realized that the mission for the company started off because I was talking to children that were in low income disenfranchised neighborhoods, and I noticed that their parents didn't either have the financial budget for it or didn't think it was valuable. So I was like, the parents are buying it. These are middle class, upper class kids that are getting the books and everything, and they can afford it, and their parents value reading. But the ones I really want to actually impact, they're not getting it. So my strategy changed from social media to going to the school system. So I got licensed to get into Chicago public schools, and then now I'm just working on getting into other school districts. So I wanted to make sure that I can actually get into the school system to make the impact that I started off in the beginning trying to do. So yes, I did have to pivot.
That's incredible, and that's something we talked about earlier in this class. Is that look, just because you open a business doesn't mean you can't change things.
Exactly.
I worked in the restaurant industry for 11 years, and our menu would change every few months. You can change what you're selling. You can change how you sell it. You can change your price. You can change your logo. That doesn't mean you have to start from scratch. So being able
Exactly.
to adjust to the flexibility of the market, especially with technology changes, with the coming of social media, and then in your case, you opened just a few months before the pandemic, so that made everybody pivot. Um,
Yes.
Everything was different. So that is a great example of that. Now we're almost out of time, and we always just thank you for fitting this in because I know you're really busy. But before we go, a couple of things. One, I got seniors here with me that are about to graduate. They're all thinking about, even just being part-time entrepreneurs. Why does entrepreneurship need more young Black kids to get into it, like the ones I have with me here today?
Yeah, so I think we need more representation for Black entrepreneurs because we need to be able to have some type of sustainability economically, right? So before integration, we owned pretty much everything because we didn't have a choice. And so you start to see that how well Black people flourish when we didn't have a choice and we had our own economic base. Now we're here in a space where we feel like some of the environments that we work in are not as, maybe we feel like there's racial aggressions and things like that. If we have our own spaces and we can hire our own people, that will allow us to be able to feel like we can flourish more, instead of having to beg other communities because nobody else has to go out and beg other communities to hire them. So that's very important, especially with me. Like most of the people that work for me look like me, and that was important because I wanted to make sure I was actually impacting my community by offering them jobs. And that's even with my books. I want to make sure that Black people understand the importance of group economics and working together. So yeah, I definitely think that the more we can get more Black entrepreneurs with sustainable businesses, the better off that we will be.
Absolutely. I mean, and I always say any industry, no matter what it is, needs to represent the actual demographics of the people that live there. So, if it's not if it's not matching up, that's when the economic downfalls happen. But I couldn't agree more with you on that. Now, before we go, tell us where to find you on social media, because you got some cool stuff going on, and all of your products are on there.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at little_owners, and then I'm on Facebook at Little Owners, and our website is littleowners.com, and that's where you can find me. But I appreciate you guys having me back, and I'm always willing to pour into the youth. And I wish you guys well. And I would say, as you guys going out into adulthood and figure out what you want to do, just make sure that whatever you're doing, it makes financial sense, right? Don't go and get needless degrees for things that may not actually make financial sense. Meaning, don't get a degree where the average salary is 40,000, but the degree costs $60,000. You're going to find yourself in a situation where you are over leveraged. So be open to trades. Find a side hustle that you're passionate about, and I think you guys will do really well.
Absolutely. We thank you so much. Little Owners, Pongee Barnes, all the way from Chicago, Illinois, one of the hottest Black entrepreneurs in the United States right now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, bye-bye.
I talk to you soon, buddy.